The phone buzzed at 2:17 in the morning, and that's when my world shifted sideways. I'm Jack Granger, 38 years old, construction foreman by day, fool by night, at least according to the glowing screen in my kitchen. Tessa had left her phone charging on the counter again, something she'd been doing more often lately. The text message preview lit up like a neon sign in a dark alley. I'm keeping the baby, but I'm putting Chad's name on the birth certificate. Easier that way. I stared at those words until they burned into my retinas. My wife of 12 years, pregnant with another man's child, discussing paperwork like she was ordering takeout. The casual cruelty of it hit me harder than any sledgehammer I'd ever swung on a job site. Easier for who, exactly? The father or the fool? I picked up her phone and scrolled through the conversation. Chad Whitby, local real estate developer, married father of two, owner of the biggest construction contracts in our coastal Maine town. The man who'd been just a colleague for the past 8 months. Their messages painted a picture uglier than any crime scene. Lunch meetings that ran late, weekend property inspections that somehow required overnight stays. My wife giggling about how clueless Jack was, working his construction jobs while she played house with Prince Charming. The baby was due in 4 months. I'd been excited, planning the nursery, picking out names. Tessa had been glowing, accepting congratulations from neighbors, posting bump photos on social media. The whole town thought we were finally getting our happy ending after years of trying. But the happy ending belonged to someone else. I set her phone down carefully, my hands steadier than they had any right to be. 20 years in construction teaches you patience. Measure twice, cut once. Same principle applied here. I wasn't going to swing wild and miss. This required precision. First, I texted back from her phone. Okay. Then I got to work. By sunrise, I'd accomplished more than most people do in a week. I canceled the lease on our Victorian rental, the one Tessa had insisted we needed to keep up appearances. I transferred our joint savings to my personal account, leaving exactly half for her. I forwarded her text conversation to my phone, then deleted the evidence from hers. Before we deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. The pièce de résistance came at 7 a.m. I drove to the fancy gift shop downtown and ordered a custom congratulations basket. Cigars, baby booties, a bottle of champagne, and a card that read, "Congrats on fatherhood. From your new co-parent, Tessa Granger. P.S. Your wife might want to know." I had it delivered to Chad's mansion on Elm Street, right around the time his wife Alyssa would be having her morning coffee. My phone rang at 7:30. "Jack, this is Alyssa Whitby. I think we need to talk." Her voice was ice-cold professional, the tone of someone who'd built a fortune in pharmaceutical sales and wasn't easily rattled. But underneath, I heard something else. Curiosity mixed with barely contained rage. "I figured you might call," I said, leaning against my truck outside the job site. "Nice morning for it." "This basket, these accusations, what exactly are you trying to tell me?" I could picture her in that pristine kitchen, probably still in her silk robe, staring at the evidence of her husband's extracurricular activities. Chad would be upstairs, blissfully unaware that his world was about to implode. "I'm not trying to tell you anything, Mrs. Whitby. I'm just sharing some interesting news I received last night. Figured you'd want to congratulate the happy couple." A long pause. Then, "Can you prove this?" "Screenshots, hotel receipts, restaurant bills. Your husband's been generous with his expense account. My wife's been generous with her time." Another pause, longer this time. I heard papers rustling, probably Chad's credit card statements. "I see. And what do you want from me, Mr. Granger?" "Nothing. I just believe in keeping families informed." She hung up without another word. I was sliding my phone back into my pocket when Ricky Martinez, my right-hand man and the closest thing I had to a best friend, walked over with 2 cups of coffee. "You look like hell, boss. Rough night?" Ricky was ex-military, built like a brick wall and sharp enough to cut glass. We'd worked together for 5 years, ever since he'd gotten out of the Army. He could read my moods better than most people could read street signs. "You could say that." I took the coffee gratefully. "Tessa and I are separating." His eyebrows shot up. "Damn, Jack, I'm sorry. What happened?" "She's pregnant." "That's good news, right?" "Not my baby." Ricky nearly choked on his coffee. "Jesus. You sure?" "Pretty sure. Unless I've developed some kind of long-distance reproductive abilities." He studied my face, probably noting the calm tone, the steady hands, the complete absence of the emotional breakdown he'd expect from a man whose world had just collapsed. "What are you planning, Jack?" "Planning? I'm not planning anything. I'm just adjusting to new circumstances. That's when my phone buzzed with a text from Tessa. Where are you? My keys don't work. I showed Ricky the message. He grinned. Oh, this is going to be good. I pulled into the driveway at exactly noon, timing it perfectly. Tessa stood on the front porch next to 3 suitcases and a pile of boxes, her face red with fury and exertion. She'd clearly been trying to break into our house for the better part of an hour. Jack, what the hell is going on? Why don't my keys work? I climbed out of my truck slowly, savoring the moment. She looked exactly like what she was, a woman whose carefully constructed lies had just collapsed around her. I changed the locks, I said simply. Seemed like the responsible thing to do. You can't just lock me out of my own house. Actually, I can. It's not your house. The lease is in my name, remember? You insisted on it for tax purposes. Her mouth opened and closed like a fish gasping for air. Behind her, I noticed Mrs. Henderson from next door peeking through her curtains. Perfect. The neighborhood gossip network would have this story spread across town by dinner time. This is insane, Jack. We can work this out. We need to talk. We did talk. Last night. Well, you talked to Chad. I just listened. The color drained from her face. You went through my phone? Didn't have to. You left it buzzing on the counter. Hard to miss messages about paternity and birth certificates. She glanced around nervously, probably just now realizing we had an audience. Mrs. Henderson had given up all pretense and was standing openly in her yard, not even bothering to hide her interest. Can we please discuss this inside? Tessa hissed. No, I think the porch is perfect. Nice and public. I reached into my jacket and pulled out a manila envelope. These are copies of all the financial documents, bank statements, lease agreements, insurance policies. You'll need them when you explain to your new boyfriend how you managed to mess up a 12-year marriage. She snatched the envelope, her hands shaking. You're being cruel, Jack. Cruel? I'm being practical. You made your choice. I'm just helping you live with it. It's not what you think. It's exactly what I think. You've been sleeping with Chad Whitby for 8 months. You're pregnant with his child. You plan to put his name on the birth certificate and let me raise another man's kid. Did I miss anything? Mrs. Henderson gasped audibly from her yard. Tessa shot her a venomous look, then turned back to me. Fine. Yes, I made mistakes. But we can fix this. We can go to counseling? No, we can't. You can't fix lies, Tessa. You can only stop telling them. My phone rang. Chad's number flashed on the screen. I answered it on speaker. Jack, we need to talk. Chad's voice boomed across the porch. I'm listening. Not over the phone. Meet me at my office in an hour. Can't do it, Chad. I'm helping my wife move out. Big day for everyone. Tessa's eyes went wide. She was frantically shaking her head, mouthing no over and over. Look, this is all a misunderstanding. Which part? The part where you got my wife pregnant, or the part where you two plan to make me raise your kid? Silence on the other end. Then, we'll discuss this privately. I don't think so. Privacy's what got us into this mess. From now on, everything's out in the open. I hung up and looked at Tessa. She was crying now, mascara running down her cheeks in black streams. You're destroying everything, she whispered. No, sweetheart. You did that all by yourself. I'm just cleaning up the mess. A car pulled up behind my truck. Alyssa Whitby climbed out, looking like she'd stepped off the cover of a business magazine. Even in jeans and a simple blouse, she radiated the kind of confidence that came from having serious money and knowing how to use it. Mrs. Granger? She called out. I believe we have some things to discuss. Tessa looked like she wanted to crawl into a hole and disappear. I don't know what you're talking about. Really? Because I have some very interesting text messages that suggest otherwise. Alyssa held up her phone. Screenshots, actually. My husband was careless with his cloud backup. I had to admire her style. While I'd been playing the wounded husband, Alyssa had gone straight for the digital jugular. Chad's phone had automatically synced his messages to their shared family account. Every sweet nothing he'd whispered to my wife was now evidence in what was sure to be a very expensive divorce. This is harassment, Tessa said weakly. No, Alyssa replied, her voice sharp as a scalpel. Harassment is what you did to my family. This is just housekeeping. Mrs. Henderson had been joined by 2 other neighbors. Word was spreading fast, just like I'd hoped. In a town this size, reputation was everything. Tessa had built her real estate career on being the trustworthy family woman, the one who understood what young couples wanted in their starter homes. That image was crumbling in real time. Jack, please. Tessa tried one more time. Don't let it end like this. I looked at her, really looked at her. for what felt like the first time in months. The woman I'd married, the one who'd promised to love and honor me, was gone. In her place stood a stranger who'd been lying to my face while planning to make me a fool. It already ended, Tessa. You just forgot to tell me. I walked past her into the house, leaving her on the porch with her suitcases and her mistakes. Through the window, I watched Alyssa hand her a business card, probably her lawyer's, before driving away. By the time I looked again, Tessa was loading her car with the help of Mrs. Henderson's teenage son, who was clearly enjoying the drama more than he should have been. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. This isn't over. You'll regret this. T, I typed back. I already regret it. I regret believing you for 12 years. Then I blocked her number and went to make myself a sandwich. For the first time in months, I was actually hungry. 3 days later, I woke up to 17 missed calls and an inbox full of angry emails. Tessa had been busy. The first email was from my boss, Tom Bradley, with the subject line, Urgent, need to discuss your conduct. My stomach dropped as I opened it and saw screenshots of text messages I'd supposedly sent to various women around town, crude, inappropriate messages that painted me as some kind of predator. The messages were good fakes, I had to give her credit. They used my writing style, referenced inside jokes, even included photos that looked like they'd been taken from my social media accounts. But they were still fakes. The second email was from Monica Walsh, Tessa's best friend and fellow real estate agent. The subject line read, You should be ashamed. Jack, I always knew you were jealous of Tessa's success, but I never thought you'd stoop this low. Spreading lies about her and Chad, trying to destroy her reputation because you can't handle a strong, independent woman. The whole town is talking about what you did to her. You're pathetic. I had to laugh at that one. Monica had been enabling Tessa's affairs for years, providing alibis and covering stories. She'd probably helped coordinate half the hotel meetings. The third email made my chest tighten. It was from Jennifer Marsh, my old high school friend who'd become a detective with the local police department. Jack, I need you to call me as soon as you get this. There's been a complaint filed against you for harassment and stalking. I know this isn't like you, but we need to talk before this gets out of hand. Tessa wasn't just fighting back. She was trying to destroy me completely. I called Jennifer first. Jack, thank God. I was hoping you'd call before Tom Bradley came down here with his lawyers. Tom's involving lawyers? He got some pretty disturbing messages allegedly from you. Harassment stuff directed at female employees. He's talking about firing you and pressing charges. I closed my eyes and counted to 10. Jenny, those messages are fakes. Tessa's trying to frame me. I figured as much, but I need proof. Can you come in this morning? Bring your phone. Any computers you have access to. We'll sort this out. On my way. The police station was a 15-minute drive, but I made it in 10. Jennifer met me at the front desk, looking professional but concerned. This way, she said, leading me to an interview room. Before we start, I need to tell you that Tessa filed a formal complaint yesterday. She claims you've been sending threatening messages, following her, and trying to turn the town against her. All true except the threatening part. I haven't threatened anyone. She also claims you broke into Chad Whitby's house and vandalized his property. Also not true. I sent him a congratulations basket. Hardly vandalism. Jennifer pulled out a file folder. These are the text messages Tom Bradley received. They're supposedly from your phone number. I looked at the screenshots. They were good, really good. Whoever had made them understood my sense of humor, my speech patterns, even my tendency to use construction metaphors in casual conversation. Jenny, I need you to check something. Look at the metadata on these images. Check the timestamps against my work schedule. She frowned. What am I looking for? These messages were supposedly sent during work hours. I'm on a job site from 7 to 5 every day, surrounded by witnesses. My phone logs will show I was nowhere near these women when these messages were allegedly sent. It took her 20 minutes to pull the phone records and cross-reference them with my work schedule. When she finished, she was smiling. You're right. 3 of these messages were sent while you were in a meeting with the city planning committee. The meeting was recorded. So we're good? We're good. But Jack, you need to be careful. Whoever did this is smart and motivated. They're not going to stop here. She was right, of course. By the time I got to the job site, Ricky was waiting with more bad news. Someone called the building inspector this morning, he said. Anonymous tip about safety violations on the Morrison project. The Morrison project was our biggest contract, a luxury housing development that would keep us busy for the next 8 months. If we got shut down for safety violations, real or imagined, it would cost us everything. What kind of violations? The usual nonsense. Improper scaffolding, inadequate safety equipment, workers without proper certification, all easily disproven, but it'll take time. Time we don't have. Gets worse. Someone also called Morrison directly, told him you were under investigation for harassment. He's spooked. I felt the familiar calm settling over me, the same feeling I got when a project started falling apart and needed immediate attention. Panic was a luxury I couldn't afford. Ricky, I need you to document everything, every safety protocol, every piece of equipment, every worker's certification, make copies of everything and store them off-site. You think this is going to escalate? I know it is. Tessa's not just trying to hurt me, she's trying to destroy my ability to make a living. That means she's scared. Scared of what? Of what I might do next. That afternoon, I paid a visit to the Anchor Tap, the local dive bar where half the town's gossip was born and the other half came to expire. The owner, Pete Kowalski, had been serving drinks and collecting secrets for 30 years. "Jack," he called out when I walked in, "heard you've been having some excitement." That's one way to put it. I ordered a beer and settled onto a bar stool. What are people saying? Mixed reviews. Half the town thinks you're a saint for exposing Tessa and Chad. The other half thinks you're a monster for humiliating a pregnant woman. And what do you think? Pete grinned and leaned across the bar. I think Chad Whitby's had it coming for years, and your wife picked the wrong man to mess with. Why's that? Because you're the guy who built half this town, Jack. You've got friends, people who respect you. Tessa's got what? A real estate license and a talent for gossip. He was right. I'd spent 20 years in this town, building relationships along with houses. I'd coached Little League, volunteered for charity drives, helped neighbors with home repairs. Tessa had spent the same 20 years networking, but only with people who could advance her career. Pete, I need a favor. Name it. Next time someone comes in here spreading stories about me, I want to know about it, and I want to know exactly what they said. You got it. But Jack, be careful. Cornered animals do crazy things. As if on cue, my phone buzzed with a text from Tessa. You think you're so smart. Wait until you see what I have planned. I showed the message to Pete. He whistled low. Yeah, I said. Crazy things. The call came at midnight on Friday. Old man Greeley from the marina, whispering into his phone like he was passing state secrets. Jack, you need to get down here. That developer fellow and your wife just took his boat out, but something ain't right about it. What do you mean something ain't right? They were arguing when they got here, loud arguing. She was crying, he was yelling about his wife freezing his accounts. Then they got on the boat and headed out toward the islands. I was already reaching for my clothes. Which boat? The big white yacht, Alyssa's Dream. Ironic name, considering. 20 minutes later, I was crouched behind a piling at the marina with Ricky, watching Chad's 40-foot yacht bobbing in the harbor about 200 yards offshore. The lights were on in the cabin, and even from that distance, we could hear voices carrying across the water. What's the plan? Ricky whispered. Chad's boat has a tendency to develop engine problems at inconvenient times. How would you know that? Because I installed the electrical system last year, and I may have built in a few safety features. I pulled out my phone and opened an app that looked like a simple calculator. 3 taps later, Chad's yacht went completely dark. Remote shutoff, I explained, in case of emergency. Is this an emergency? Chad's about to find out. The shouting from the boat got louder as Chad tried unsuccessfully to restart the engines. I could make out Tessa's voice, high and panicked, demanding to know what was happening. Now what? Ricky asked. Now we call the Coast Guard and report a vessel in distress. That's cold, boss. Not as cold as planning to pass off another man's child as mine. The Coast Guard arrived 30 minutes later, along with a police boat and half the volunteer fire department. Chad and Tessa were rescued in dramatic fashion, wrapped in blankets and looking thoroughly humiliated. But the best part came when Alyssa Whitby showed up at the marina, having been notified that her husband's boat was involved in an incident. She took one look at Chad, and Tessa huddled together under their rescue blankets and started laughing. Well, she announced loud enough for everyone to hear, this explains where my jewelry went. She held up her phone, showing a photo of Tessa wearing what was clearly an expensive necklace. This was taken last week at the Riverside restaurant. That's my anniversary necklace she's wearing. The crowd that had gathered to watch the rescue suddenly got very interested in the conversation. Chad's face went from embarrassed to mortified. Alyssa, I can explain. Oh, I'm sure you can. Just like you explained the hotel receipts and the credit card charges and the mysterious business trips that coincided with your girlfriend's real estate showings. Tessa tried to slip away in the confusion, but Monica Walsh chose that moment to arrive, probably having heard about the drama through the town's gossip network. Tessa, thank God you're okay. I heard you were in some kind of accident. She stopped mid-sentence when she saw Chad, Alyssa, and the growing crowd of onlookers. The pieces clicked into place visibly across her face. "Oh," Monica said quietly. "Oh, no." "Oh, yes," Alyssa replied. "Your friend here has been very busy, stealing jewelry, wrecking marriages, the usual Friday night activities." By Saturday morning, the story was all over town. The marina incident had provided enough drama to fuel the gossip mill for months. Chad was staying at the Motel 6 out by the highway. Tessa was crashing on Monica's couch. And Alyssa was meeting with the most expensive divorce lawyer in the state. I was enjoying a peaceful cup of coffee when Jennifer Marsh called. "Jack, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be straight with me." "Shoot." "Did you have anything to do with Chad Whitby's boat breaking down last night?" I took a sip of coffee and considered my answer carefully. "Jenny, that boat has a history of electrical problems. I've warned Chad about it before." "That's not what I asked." "It's the answer I'm giving." She sighed. "Jack, I know you're angry. I know you have every right to be angry, but you need to be careful. If this escalates much further, people are going to get hurt." "People are already hurt, Jenny. I'm just making sure the right people are paying for it. That's what worries me." After she hung up, I sat on my porch and watched the town wake up. Mrs. Henderson was already in her garden, probably hoping for another dramatic confrontation to entertain her morning. The mailman waved as he passed, grinning like he was in on some private joke. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "You think you're clever. You have no idea what's coming." I typed back, "Try me." The response came immediately. "Charity gala tonight. Everyone will be there. Everyone will see." I stared at the message for a long moment, then started making phone calls. If Tessa wanted to make a public statement, I'd make sure she got the audience she deserved. The first call was to Brendan Murphy, the tech guy who handled audio-visual equipment for most of the town's big events. The second was to Pete at the Anchor Tap. The third was to Ricky. "We're going to a party tonight," I told him. "What kind of party?" "The kind where everyone gets what they deserve." The annual Harbor Days charity gala was held in the ballroom of the old Seaside Hotel, a grand dame of a building that had seen better decades but still knew how to put on a show. By 7 p.m., half the town was there, dressed in their finest clothes and ready to bid on donated items for the local children's hospital. I arrived fashionably late, wearing the one good suit I owned and a smile that probably looked more predatory than charitable. Ricky was already there, having helped Brendan set up the audio-visual equipment earlier in the day. Tessa stood near the silent auction table, radiant in a blue dress that probably cost more than most people's monthly rent. She was holding court with a small group of women, no doubt spinning some version of events that painted her as the victim of a vindictive husband. Chad lurked by the bar, looking like a man who'd rather be anywhere else. Alyssa was notably absent, probably busy with her lawyers. "Ladies and gentlemen," the mayor called out from the small stage at the front of the room. "Thank you all for coming tonight. Before we begin the auction, we have a special presentation about the Children's Hospital Expansion Project." That was my cue. I caught Brendan's eye across the room and nodded. The lights dimmed, and the large screen behind the stage flickered to life. Instead of hospital blueprints, the audience was treated to a slideshow of text messages, Tessa and Chad's greatest hits, projected in high definition for all to see. I can't wait to get away from Jack. He's so boring. "The baby's definitely yours. I haven't touched my husband in months. We should go to Paris after the divorce. I'll have plenty of money from the settlement." The room went silent except for the gentle hum of the projector. 200 people stared at the screen in fascination, reading intimate details of an affair that had torn apart two families. Tessa's face went white, then red, then white again. She looked around frantically, probably trying to figure out how to stop the show, but the damage was already done. "Turn it off!" she screamed, rushing toward the stage. "Turn it off right now!" But the presentation continued. Screenshots of hotel receipts, restaurant bills, even a few photos Chad had apparently taken of them together at various romantic locations around the state. Chad tried to make a run for the exit, but his path was blocked by a crowd of gawkers who were enjoying the show too much to let him escape. He stumbled, caught himself on a chair, and knocked over someone's drink in the process. "This is harassment," Monica Walsh shouted, trying to come to her friend's defense. "This is a violation of privacy." "Privacy?" called out Mrs. Henderson from the back of the room. They were conducting their affair in public restaurants. I saw them at the Lighthouse Cafe last month, making out like teenagers. The crowd murmured agreement. Apparently, Chad and Tessa hadn't been as discreet as they'd thought. The final slide was a masterpiece of timing. A photo of the congratulations basket I'd sent to Chad's house, complete with the card that had started this whole public unraveling. When the lights came back up, Tessa was crying, and Chad was nowhere to be seen. The The crowd buzzed with excitement, already planning how they'd retell this story to friends and family. "Well," the mayor said into his microphone, clearly struggling to regain control of the evening, "that was unexpected. Perhaps we should move on to the auction?" But nobody was interested in bidding on donated artwork anymore. They were all too busy discussing the real-life drama that had just unfolded before their eyes. I made my way through the crowd, accepting handshakes and sympathetic pats on the back. Public opinion had clearly shifted in my favor. The wronged husband had become the clever avenger, and people loved a good revenge story. "Jack," Monica Walsh appeared at my elbow, her face flushed with anger. "How could you do this to her? She's pregnant." "She's pregnant with another man's child, Monica. Let's not forget that part." "You're destroying her reputation." "No, I'm revealing it. There's a difference." Tessa had disappeared, probably to the ladies' room to repair her makeup and figure out her next move. But the damage was done. By tomorrow morning, everyone in town would know the details of her affair. My phone buzzed with a text from Jennifer Marsh. "Saw the show? Impressive. Also probably illegal. Call me." I was typing a response when Ricky appeared beside me. "Boss, we might have a problem. Chad's in the parking lot and he looks angry." "How angry?" "The kind of angry that makes bad decisions." Through the ballroom windows, I could see Chad pacing beside his BMW, talking rapidly on his phone. He kept looking back at the hotel entrance, his body language screaming confrontation. "Think he's calling reinforcements?" I asked. "Nah, probably calling his lawyer, or maybe a cab. His wife froze all his accounts, remember? He might not even have gas money." As if on cue, Chad's phone call ended, and he kicked his car tire in frustration. Then he started walking back toward the hotel entrance. "Here we go," I muttered. Chad burst through the ballroom doors like an angry bull, his face red and his expensive suit rumpled from his earlier stumble. "Where is he?" he shouted. "Where's Jack Granger?" The crowd parted like the Red Sea, everyone eager to see the next act of the evening's entertainment. Chad spotted me near the bar and started pushing through the crowd. "You son of a—" He caught himself, probably remembering there were ladies present. "You think you're real clever, don't you?" "Clever enough," I replied calmly. "You ruined my marriage." "Pretty sure you did that yourself, Chad. I just provided the documentation." He swung at me then, a wild, clumsy punch that I saw coming from a mile away. I stepped aside and let his momentum carry him past me, straight into the dessert table. The crowd gasped as Chad went face first into a chocolate cake, emerging covered in frosting and looking like a toddler who'd had a tantrum at a birthday party. "Security," someone called out, but the hotel's elderly security guard was already there, probably having anticipated trouble from the moment the slideshow started. "All right, Mr. Whitby," the guard said wearily. "Time to go." As Chad was escorted out, dripping chocolate and muttering threats, I caught sight of Tessa watching from the doorway. Her expression was unreadable, but I could see the wheels turning behind her eyes. This wasn't over, not by a long shot. The war escalated over the next week. Tessa had moved in with Monica temporarily, but their friendship was already showing strain. According to Pete at the Anchor Tap, Monica was having second thoughts about harboring the town's most notorious adulteress. Chad was living at the motel and driving a rental car, since Alyssa had repossessed the BMW along with everything else. His construction company was hemorrhaging clients as word spread about his personal drama. Nobody wanted to do business with a man who couldn't keep his own house in order, but Tessa wasn't finished fighting. On Wednesday, I arrived at the job site to find the Morrison project crawling with building inspectors, OSHA officials, and what looked like half the city planning department. Someone had filed formal complaints about everything from improper permits to environmental violations. "This is harassment," Tom Morrison told me, his face grim. "I've been building houses for 30 years, and I've never seen anything like this. Someone's trying to destroy this project." The complaints were all bogus, but proving it would take time and money we didn't have. Worse, the negative publicity was scaring off other potential clients. 3 contracts had been canceled in the past week. "It's Tessa," Ricky said as we watched the inspectors crawl over our equipment. "She's got connections at City Hall from her real estate work. She's calling in every favor she's ever earned." He was right, of course, but 2 could play that game. That evening, I paid a visit to Brendan Murphy, the tech guy who'd helped me with the gala presentation. He lived in a converted warehouse downtown, surrounded by enough electronic equipment to launch a space mission. "Jack, how's it going, man? That slideshow was epic. People are still talking about it." "I need another favor, Brendan." "Name it." "I need to know everything there is to know about Tessa's computer activities. Email accounts, social media, cloud storage, everything." Brendan's expression grew cautious. That's That's getting into some legally gray areas, Jack. She's trying to destroy my business. She's filing false reports, making bogus complaints, spreading lies to anyone who'll listen. I need ammunition to fight back. And if I say no, then I lose everything I've worked 20 years to build, and she wins. Brendan was quiet for a long moment, staring at his bank of computer monitors. Finally, he nodded. Give me 24 hours. The next evening, he called me back to the warehouse. His expression was grim as he led me to his main workstation. Jack, you're not going to like what I found. Show me. The first screen displayed Tessa's email account, filled with messages to and from various city officials. She'd been systematically filing complaints against my company, using her real estate connections to lend credibility to her accusations. But that wasn't the worst part. Look at this, Brendan said, pulling up another screen. She's been coordinating with Chad. They're planning something big. The email chain made my stomach turn. Tessa and Chad were plotting to frame me for assault, using fake photos and manufactured evidence to have me arrested. The plan was elaborate and vicious, designed to destroy not just my business, but my freedom. There's more, Brendan said quietly. The baby. He pulled up medical records that should have been private. DNA test results, paternity information, doctor's notes. The baby isn't Chad's, I said, reading over his shoulder. It's not yours either. According to this, the father is someone named David Chen, a pharmaceutical sales rep from Portland. Married, 2 kids. I stared at the screen in disbelief. Tessa hadn't just been having an affair with Chad. She'd been having affairs with multiple men, playing them against each other for maximum financial benefit. She's been lying to everyone, I said. Gets worse. Look at this email to Monica. The message was dated 3 days ago. The plan is working perfectly. Jack's business is falling apart, and once he's arrested, I'll get everything in the divorce. Chad's just collateral damage. David doesn't even know about the baby yet. I'll save that surprise for when I need another payday. I felt something cold settle in my chest as I read Tessa's casual cruelty, her complete lack of remorse for the lives she was destroying. Brendan, I need you to make copies of everything. Every email, every document, every photo. Can you do that? Already done. But Jack, what are you planning? I'm planning to give everyone exactly what they deserve. Friday morning, I made a series of phone calls. The first was to Jennifer Marsh, asking her to meet me at the police station. The second was to Alyssa Whitby's lawyer. The third was to David Chen in Portland. That conversation was particularly interesting. Mr. Chen, this is Jack Granger from Millfield. I believe you know my wife, Tessa. What? No, I don't know anyone named Tessa. Really? Because I have hotel receipts, restaurant bills, and medical records that suggest otherwise. A long pause. What do you want? I want you to know that you're about to become a father. Congratulations. I hung up before he could respond. By noon, I'd delivered copies of all the evidence to the appropriate authorities. Jennifer had the emails proving Tessa's plan to frame me for assault. Alyssa's lawyer had the financial records showing Chad's misuse of company funds to pay for his affairs. The building inspectors had proof that the complaints against my company were fraudulent, but I saved the best for last. At exactly 3 p.m., I walked into the real estate office where Tessa worked, carrying a thick manila folder and wearing my most professional smile. I need to speak with the manager, I told the receptionist. Regarding? Regarding your employees' fraudulent business practices and criminal conspiracy charges. The office went silent. Tessa emerged from a back room, her face pale but defiant. Jack, what are you doing here? I'm here to return some property, I said, opening the folder and spreading documents across the reception desk. Email printouts, financial records, medical documents. Everything you thought was private. Her eyes widened as she recognized her own words staring back at her from the pages. You went through my private emails? Actually, you made them public when you used your work computer to send them. Corporate property, public record. The office manager, a stern woman named Patricia Holmes, picked up one of the emails and began reading. Her expression grew darker with each line. Ms. Granger, is this accurate? Have you been using our office resources to file false complaints against local businesses? I can explain. Because if so, you're terminated immediately. We can't afford to be associated with this kind of behavior. Tessa looked around the office desperately, probably hoping for support from her colleagues. Instead, she found faces full of disgust and disappointment. You people don't understand, she said, her voice rising. He's trying to destroy me. No, I said quietly. You did that yourself. I just documented it. As I walked out of the office, I could hear Tessa screaming behind me, demanding lawyers and threatening lawsuits. But her voice was getting fainter, and her threats were sounding more and more hollow. My phone rang as I reached my truck. It was Pete from the Anchor Tap. "Jack, you need to get down here. Chad Whitby just walked in, and he's drunker than I've ever seen him. He's making threats." "What kind of threats?" "The kind that end with someone getting arrested." I drove to the bar faster than I probably should have, arriving to find Chad holding court at a corner table, slurring his words and waving a nearly empty bottle of whiskey. "There he is," Chad shouted when he saw me. "The man who ruined my life." "You ruined your own life, Chad. I just provided the highlight reel." He stood up unsteadily, swaying on his feet. "You think you're so smart, don't you? Well, I've got news for you. This isn't over." "Yeah, it is. Your wife's divorcing you, your business is finished, and your girlfriend just got fired. It's about as over as it gets." "She's not my girlfriend anymore," Chad slurred. "Found out about the other guy. David Chen, pharmaceutical sales, married. She's been playing all of us." The bar had gone quiet, everyone listening to Chad's drunken confession. "You know what the funny part is?" Chad continued, taking another swig from the bottle. "I actually loved her. I was going to leave Alyssa, give up everything. For what? For a woman who was lying to everyone." He looked at me with bleary, unfocused eyes. "You won, Jack. You got your revenge. Hope it was worth it." "It was." Chad nodded slowly, then walked out of the bar without another word. I never saw him again. Word was he'd moved back to Boston, where his brother had offered him a job in middle management. As for Tessa, she disappeared from town 3 days later, leaving behind a trail of unpaid bills and broken promises. Monica told people she'd gone to stay with relatives in California, but I suspected she was really trying to track down David Chen and convince him to take responsibility for the baby. I sat at the bar, nursing a beer and watching the sun set through the windows. The town would find new gossip soon enough, new scandals to dissect and analyze, but for now I was content to be just another guy having a drink after work. "So," Pete said, wiping down glasses behind the bar, "was it worth it?" I thought about the question for a long moment. My marriage was over, my trust in people permanently damaged. But I was free from the lies, free from the manipulation, free from pretending to be happy in a relationship that had been hollow for years. "Yeah," I said finally. "It was worth it." My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "You haven't seen the last of me." I deleted the message without responding. Some stories end with forgiveness and reconciliation, others end with justice and consequences. This one ended with me finishing my beer, walking out into the cool Maine evening, and going home to a house that was finally completely mine. The last laugh, as they say, is always the loudest.